Hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for being here for this game. It's an updated version of DHCP and DNS based on feedback from yesterday. So thank you everybody for the office hour yesterday. A lot of fun. And thanks for the recommendations. So I'm looking at the chats and I see Nahid and Daniel and Jama and Iqbal and Dahar, Osuma, Fred, TZ, Blendinator. Welcome everybody. Michael's in the house. Asif. TY's here. Adil's here. Ben's here. Abdequani's here. I apologize in advance for my accent. Thank you, Blendinator, aka Dan, is saying good luck to everybody with a super sticker. Dan, you are so great on Discord and here on the channel helping other people, and I really enjoy your input. So thanks for all the service you're giving to so many people. Hola, Alex. Grotham's here. Nick003. Samson Armstrong is here. Good to have everybody. We're going to start here in just a few moments. I getting a little bit of a late start today. I had some company in town. They're just leaving as we speak, so I am all yours for the next 35 minutes for this live quiz. 10 questions. All the questions are about 60 seconds each for answering. And then right afterwards, we'll jump into the Discord server. If you have specific questions about any of these questions in the live stream, join us in Discord for a few minutes and we can just chat and elaborate on them to your heart's content. Summer, and you're very welcome. Thank you for the feedback. Naom's in the house from Ethiopia. Welcome, welcome. And E-Angel states, passed the exam 2 weeks ago. Thanks for your videos and sessions. That is so great. Well, E-Angel, I'm so proud of you for putting in the work. That's fantastic. The foundation, the fundamentals that we learn as part of CCNA will serve us in networking for a long, long time. So congrats to everybody who's putting in the time and effort, because it's not always comfortable. It's not always comfortable to study and learn. However, sometimes it can be super fun and it's going to be super beneficial for you. All right. Durtech IT is in the house. And Alawahu is booked their exam for next Friday. Surg is here from Ukraine. Prashant's here. All right. Everybody's fantastic. So if somebody pops in a little bit late, just let them know what the PIN code is. It should be at the very bottom of the screen, but if for some reason it disappears, if one or two of you want to jot it down, and then if somebody joins late and they need to know it, you can just say, here's the PIN code. All right. And thank you, Carlos. Studying for Encore, but I'm here every weekend for fundamentals. Love it. I'm glad you're here. Every Saturday on my Discord server, it's free. We have a CCNA office hour discussion, and then every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, we have this quiz or similar quiz, and then right after we'll be in the Discord server as well, just to follow it up. Okay, let's get this party started. It's a party by me, Keith Barker. So glad that you're here. Cisco CCNA, DNS, and DHCP. I believe it's just 10 questions. Here's the first one. It is multiple select. The show IP interface command can reveal which DHCP related information. There's at least 2 correct answers on the board, maybe more. What do you think? The faster you answer correctly, the more points you get. So if you feel a burning desire to answer in the chat, I would ask you to suppress that urge. That way I won't have to put you on timeout. Join the game. The PIN code is at the bottom. You can use a web browser or the app on a smart device. Hit the PIN code and you can actually participate in the game as opposed to just getting silenced in the chats. I'm glad everyone's here, including Mauricio from Costa Rica. Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. Now, also what I did, a little bit tricky, a little bit sneaky, is I did this. I put this output with a slow show, a slow reveal, which has the answer to this question. But the key is if you can answer this before it reveals itself, that you get more points. And so show IP interface, here's a trick that I learned a couple decades ago. I'm going to share it with you right now. And that is, anytime we have the word IP in a syntax, like show IP interface brief or IP address or etc., that means IP version 4. If it's version 6, they're going to tag on some flavor of V6 with that, like IP V6. So whenever you see IP all by itself like this, that's just for IP version 4. So the question was, what can it reveal? Well, it's not going to be no IPv6 information at all. And that blocks off red and yellow, those two. And what this will show with show IP interface brief, it shows that the address was received via DHCP. So on the interface, somebody said IP address, DHCP, enter. And then it did a discover, offer, request, acknowledgement process, client, server, and got that address. It also, let's see here, what else? What does blue say? I don't remember what blue says. We'll see that in a minute. Oh, here, right here. This is also showing us right here that we have DHCP relay enabled on that interface. So IP helper was used that says the DHCP server is 10.1.0.55. Is it likely you're going to see a DHCP client that also has an IP helper address? No, that's not too likely. But I just did this so I could put it on one screen. But that was the answers for us. IPv4 DHCP relay information and DHCP assigned IP address, green and blue. Fantastic. Let's see who's on the top of the heap here. Knowing Bunny. Way to go. All right. And there's 9 questions to go. They're all about a minute apiece. Here's question 2. It's multiple select. What may cause a non-authoritative DNS result? I'm looking for 3 answers. Look for the one that's not valid and choose the other 3. Good luck, everybody. And Iqbal, if you want me to go over Dora, if I don't cover it in this quiz, please join me right after on the Discord server. Ask that question to me directly, and we'll just chat about it. I'll give you an explanation in more detail. And Gautam, you just go to kahoot.it, open a new browser, or use the Kahoot app. And at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there's a pin. You put in that pin, and that's how you can participate live. We've got 7 more questions after this one. No, 8 more. So there's plenty of time. Jump in there. We'd love to have you. Okay, what may cause a non-authoritative DNS answer? Let's take a look, just peeking for a moment at this output. What is this output all about? Let me grab a pen. So this is NS Lookup, which is a fantastic tool that goes out and queries a DNS server that you have configured. You can also, in interactive mode, you can specify what DNS server you want to use. So this NS Lookup says, please give me the IP address or addresses behind this name, because that's what DNS does. It maps and resolves names to IP addresses. So that's my DNS server that I'm currently using, which is a open DNS server umbrella from Cisco. And this says it's a non-authoritative answer, and that for that name, ogit.online, it has 2 IP addresses associated with that. So why is that non-authoritative? So let's say we have some root DNS servers, and we have some DNS servers for .com and for, let's say, .in and for .org, etc. And then under each of those, then there's companies. Let's say you have, like, I have a friend, Rohit, who is involved in a company called ACIT, ACIT.in. And then he has hired a DNS server that's responsible for all the names at acit.in. And so that if we got an answer directly from this DNS server, that would be referred to as an authoritative DNS answer. It's coming from the start of authority, the DNS server that's responsible for that specific domain. So when a client makes a request, so this is us over here, meaning not us, but like you and I, us together, we make a request to our DNS server. Our DNS server is first, our client's going to look at the cache first. Do I already know, says the client, if we're just doing a regular DNS request, do I already know what that IP address is behind that name? If it doesn't, it makes a DNS request. That DNS server, if it has in the cache, it can answer it. If it doesn't, it can make a request. And this is called a iterative recursive request. That's basically going out, walking the tree, asking the DNS infrastructure until finally it gets the name. And then it comes back and it's cached all the way back. So this DNS server would cache it, the client would cache it, and those would all be examples of non-authoritative because they're all indirectly coming unless we got it directly from the horse's mouth. So what may cause a non-authoritative DNS result? A local server cache, it's this example here. Service provider cache, which would be an example for maybe the service provider we're using. So maybe this is an internal DNS server. Maybe we have a DNS server that's at our service provider that it has it cached. The device local cache. So any of those three answers would be a reason for a non-authoritative DNS result. I love it. You won't, and we got a lot of great answers too on that. So perfect. Here we go. Question number 3 of 10. Is it possible to map multiple IP addresses to a single DNS name? And the faster you answer correctly, the more points you get. Go, go, go. And Jozak, the local cache would be in reference to whatever device you're looking at. So if you're looking at a local DNS server, that would be a local cache on the DNS server. If you're talking about the actual client, it could be a local cache on that Windows or Linux or Mac client or mobile device. So it's based on the context where that term is being used. But oftentimes local would refer to the PC. All right, is it possible to map multiple addresses? The answer is yes, and that's the example I think we had from just a moment ago. There's one name and a couple IP addresses behind it. And one of the benefits of that is the DNS can round robin. So it gets a request for one name resolution, it can hand out one IP address. And then it gets another request for that same address, that name again, and it can hand out these second or alternate IP addresses, or it can hand out all of them. So it's a way to, the reality is, the question was, can we map multiple IP addresses, like this example, to a single DNS name? The answer is absolutely yes. All right, here we go. Question number 4 of 10. It is double points. Where is DHCP relay configured in this topology? And Corey Nels, I would prefer the answers in the interface for the game. That's where the answer should show up. So if you're able to, go to kahoot.it in a separate window or on a mobile device, use the game pin and answer there. Thanks for asking. Where is DHCP relay configured? My thought would be this. If this is the client, which is documented here, it is, and this is the DHCP server, and this is the router for this segment, it would be implemented right here on the interface as part of that VLAN, that part of that broadcast domain. So when the client does the discover message saying, hey, I'm looking for a DHCP server, this router, who's configured with DHCP relay to point to this DHCP server, can go ahead and take that broadcast, the discover message, and unicast it and route it over to the DHCP server, who then identifies where that came from. It came from 10.1.0. It asks itself, do I have a pool of addresses associated with 10.1.0? If it does, it then unicasts back to this router the offer coming this way. And then the DHCP relay device then forwards that offer into the network where the client takes it. The client says, wow, great offer, I'll take it. That's a request. And then that request gets routed through the network back to the DHCP server. And then the acknowledgement coming back gets routed as a unicast frame, a packet back to R1, who then forwards it. So the PC doesn't know. It really doesn't. It doesn't, well, the PC doesn't know based on the traffic behaviors that the DHCP server isn't local. It would know, however, that the DHCP server's address is like 192.168.1. So it would be able to tell it wasn't on the local network. But from a functionality perspective, it doesn't care. It did a discover, there was an offer, there was a request, there was an acknowledgement, and this guy is happy with an IP address. So where is it configured? It's on the interface that's local to the network, the VLAN where the client is. So if this was a multi-layer switch, and this was VLAN 10, it'd be interface VLAN 10 on the multi-layer switch where we'd enable IP helper. It has to be on the same layer 3 interface in the same broadcast domain, same VLAN as the clients who are looking for a DHCP server. All right, we are making progress here, and we had a lot of people on the right answer, and I appreciate everybody who's studying and practicing and improving. That's the name of the game. That's how you win. Just never give up. Just keep on studying. I'm glad to have you here. Silly Llama, you're crushing it. 7,000, followed by Fabulous Finch, Great Kitten, Glowing Sea Lion, and Knowing Bunny. Still in the top 5. Here's question number 5. It is double points. Cisco routers use the command IP address blank in interface configuration mode to become a DHCP client. I agree, Dan. Kittens are great. Ah, so proud of you. All right. DHCP is the answer I'm looking for here. IP address space DHCP. Press enter. And that starts the DORA process on that interface as a client on the Cisco router. All right, here we go. Question 6 of 10. It's also double points. What is the syntax needed on R1 gigabit interface 0/2? And this is a DHCP related question. I agree, Joshua. Geckos are pretty amazing too. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly where we would configure the IP helper on the same subnet where the clients are, and that's the syntax to do it. So good. Way to go. IP helper. Why isn't it called DHCP relay if that's what the feature is? That's a long story that I don't know the answer to. That's when they developed it, the IP helper. Also, IP helper can be used to forward additional protocols besides just the UDP used by DHCP. But great job. All right, here we go. We are on question 7 of 10. Rounding the corner, multiple select. What can cause an IPv4 address conflict when using dynamic host configuration protocol? I'm looking for every answer on the board that is correct. Grown81, thanks for the help for your fellow game players. Appreciate you. All right. And let's talk about why this one isn't correct. Slack is involving IPv6. And so this question is about IPv4 address conflicts. And so with Slack, it's IPv6, so that takes it out of the picture. And when a DHCP server is going to hand out, let's say I have a pool of addresses, let's say 10.1.0.51 through 90. So we'd set up the network and the DHCP pool configuration, and then we do the excluded addresses to exclude 1 through 50 and also 91 through the rest of the range, which would be 255 or 254 for valid addresses that can be used. And assuming we have those, the Cisco devices acting as a DHCP server, they will do a ping check by default in attempt to determine, is the IP address they're about to hand out, let's say it's 58, is that IP address it's about to hand out, does somebody already have that? And so it'll do a ping first just to verify whether or not somebody has it. Now, unfortunately, there could be a local firewall, as Dan reminded me a few months ago, and I thought, man, that's exactly right. If there's a local firewall on a device that does have that address already, .58 is statically configured, and the DHCP server pings it, and this guy doesn't respond because he's the firewall running on the software on this computer, that could cause this DHCP server to hand out that IP address to the DHCP client in question. So manually configuring IP addresses or local firewalls that don't respond to the pings or no ping check done by a server, all of those could be reasons for a DHCP conflict. And also this was discussed in the office hour yesterday, we could also have a proxy ARP. Now, traditionally how an ARP works is you have a device that says, I wonder what the layer 2 address is of the IP address 10.1.0.1, for example, the default gateway. So it will do an ARP request, and then there's an ARP response, hopefully, and the client learns the layer 2 information. But what if you have a device that just out of the blue generates an ARP message that says, hey, here's my layer 3 address, here's my layer 2 address, or it does it on behalf of, that's a gratuitous ARP, excuse me. Gratuitous ARP is what I wanted to start explaining. A gratuitous ARP is when we didn't actually ask for it, but somebody did an ARP advertisement with their layer 3, layer 2. And if that also is seen by the DHCP server, it'll say, whoa, the IP address I'm about to hand out, I saw a gratuitous ARP for it. Somebody already has that address. And it will also exclude that from the pool as far as being able to hand it out. So it could ping and exclude IP addresses, or it could learn via gratuitous ARP and not hand those out. And proxy ARP is yet a different discussion for another day. All right. Great. Let me take a look at the queue. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Blendinator is like helping me out. Keith, it's not, do you mean gratuitous, not proxy? Thank you for having my back. I appreciate you. All right, here we go. Question number 8. 3 to go, including this one. Double points. Clients are not able to do name resolution. I'm talking about DHCP clients are not able to do name resolution. Why is that? I'm looking for a single best answer. Joshua, wow. I have 4 kids, so my study times were relatively short. Yeah, I hear you. And when I got my first CCIA in 2001, I had several young children. I know, it's tougher when you have a full-time job and you have kids and a family. So I'm proud of everybody who's putting in the time. All right, let's take a look at this output together and just confirm. So this is a DHCP pool, not a NAT pool. So we have lots of different pools that we can use on a Cisco router, and this is a pool used for DHCP. The range is, this is the network, the 64 subnet with this mask. And then we have a default router, and if you've joined me in Subnet Saturdays, or if you already know subnetting, you might be able to identify that the 64 subnet, that this .1 is not in the same subnet. So basically we're misconfigured here. We're handing out, imagine like this. So this is our client that's asking for a DHCP address, and the DHCP server will say it's right here. And it hands out all this information. The client gets it, and this is the network. And then we have a router, and then another router, router 1, router 2, router 3, just for emphasis. And let's say that this IP address is 172.16.12.1, right there. So if this client is trying to get off of its local subnet, which is the 64 subnet, it doesn't have a local default gateway. It's hard to get off the local network if your default gateway is not local to you. So this is a misconfiguration right here. The DNS server can be anywhere that's reachable via IP, so that's not a problem. And the lease that's number of days, hours, and minutes for the lease. So the reason here that clients are not able to do name resolution is that the gateway handed out by this misconfigured DHCP server, the default gateway, the default router, isn't local to that same subnet. All right, great job. And I think we have 2 more. Question 9 of 10. What is the purpose of DNS? Domain name system. What is the purpose of DNS? Wow, look at that. That's like one of the best overall scores I've seen in the 2 years we've been doing these quizzes every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So good. All right, we've got one more question, and here's the top of the heap at this point. Silly Llama, Great Kitten, Smooth Gator, Shining Urchin, and Great Bee. But the final question could tip the scales. Who's going to do it? Here we go. Question 10 of 10. It's multiple select. Which of the following are true regarding DHCP? There's at least 2 answers that are correct, and maybe more. Take a moment and give it your final shot. All right. We had 26 people on red, so the other answers all look pretty good. Let's just take a moment. Oh, I clicked on next. Let's look at the podium, and then we'll go back to that previous question, if it lets me hit the wrong button. Silly Llama! Congratulations, everybody. And I don't think it's going to let me go back to that question. But if you want to join me in the Discord server right after, I'll be happy to elaborate on any of those questions if you have questions about those questions. And here are the toughest questions from the group of 10. And that's these 3 questions. And we had 21%, 24%, 27%. And all the other questions, we had better accuracy as a group. All right, if we could just take the exam as a group, we'd do great. Yesterday, oh my gosh, it was kind of fun. In the office hour, we went through some practice. Somebody said, can you review these? And so we looked at somebody else's practice content that was publicly available and went through, and I missed a couple. We were going through it at a pretty good clip, and I said, yeah, but I think I got like 80%. I said, if a double CCI can get 80% and feel okay about it, you can too, because they don't require perfection in the CCNA. They just require a passing mark. All right, and the more practice you do and the more labbing you do, the better you'll get. And I also would love to get some feedback from you as well. So go ahead and, if you would, take a moment, provide feedback via the interface. And in just a moment, right after I close the stream, which is going to be in about 30 seconds, join me on the Discord server. There's a link for that in the video description. And we'll be in the CCNA voice room. It's just an open forum. And if you want to go over any questions, I'll leave the Kahoot game up so we can do that as well. So please, if you're studying CCNA or just want to reconnect with the foundations and the basics, please join me. My name is Keith Barker. I'm a double CCIE. I love Cisco technologies and a lot of others, but Cisco in this form. And I have the quiz every Sunday. So if you want to mark your calendar, adjust it for your time zone. Every Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, join me. I'll be right here. And then every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have the office hour, which is an open forum over on the Discord server, where we'll answer your questions regarding the CCNA technologies, provide examples, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to send you out with some music and my appreciation for being here. It's absolutely great to have you. And if you're going to join me in Discord, I'll see you there in a moment. If this is the end of your journey today with me, fantastic having you. I look forward to seeing you in the next event. Thanks, everybody.